Guys, before we start this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that way you don't miss any new content we're posting here on the channel. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of March. Make sure to hit that sub button with notifications to start on. And don't be afraid to leave a like on the video. It's completely free. Now, enjoy our interview with Big Ten champion Brad Dancer. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to kind of look at this amazing facility, our first Power 5 school that we've done on this tour. And Brad, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Phil.
No worries. Let's get started. We started talking about it briefly with your kind of background. You started coaching at 15, correct? So over 30 years now. No offense, not going to say his specific age. You can Google that yourselves. But in terms of your coaching background, what made you start coaching at 15 and kind of lead this way here?
Gas money. That was what it was. I was going to get a car at the end of the summer, and so I started riding my bike into town and knew I was going to have to pay for gas and insurance, and so trying to make a few bucks, and then really I got about as lucky as you can get. Coach in the summertime, we had a group of young kids, 8, 9, 10 years old, that they were mostly soccer and other basketball and other sports, but their parents kind of signed them up for a little tennis clinic in the summer, and that group of kids, incredibly impactful on me in terms of just their spirit and their liveliness, and it just gelled and synced, and so that was really kind of what probably got me hooked on coaching in the beginning. It's just a really awesome group of young kids.
Did you play any other sports when you were a kid?
I did. I played basketball and I played volleyball a little bit.
Of course, you're, what, 6'4"?
Oh, no, 6'1". But I got long arms for basketball, and volleyball is probably my favorite sport to play.
I love it.
Yeah, so, but yeah, great. I love sports, love competing. It's always kind of been in my blood a little bit. So, what's
been your core value when it comes to coaching? Is there anything that at 15, besides gas money, that really drove you? Besides that and the kids,
I think there's also, again, you see it all the time where people you coach a little bit, they've got big plans for their life, they coach a little bit, and you all of a sudden you see this impact that you make with someone, and you weren't even really trying them. That wasn't the goal. The goal was not to make an impact. You're just sort of like, you're just immersing yourself in their process, and all of a sudden you see like, wow, it was just impactful. And so I think coaching has a hook there that you feel like, man, this is rewarding, it's fulfilling, and I think people want to feel fulfilled in their lives. So that's probably the number one thing with coaching is just like, I'm making an impact in these people's lives.
How would you describe your philosophy when it came to coaching tennis, at least?
Yeah, I don't think I have one.
Really?
We get asked that a lot in recruiting, right? Like, what's your coaching philosophy?
Like, where do you stand when it comes to that?
And I think we just, for me, I don't really have a coaching philosophy. I think that every single student athlete on our team, everyone I've ever coached historically, they're a unique individual, and so how so much of it again is about immersing yourself in them and with them. The only thing that changed on that is when we coach a team sport. So now you've got to figure out a way that it's not 100% immersion into them, because maybe that doesn't gel with what you're trying to do with the team. But you finding that balance is probably one of the tricky, delicate things in coaching a college team, and so that's part of the big challenge that we have as coaches.
And I want to get more into that, but before we do, I wanted to kind of get your journey to Illinois.
Yeah.
What was that process like, and tell us how you ended up at such a prestigious program.
Yeah, I played at Michigan State, and all four of my grandparents, both my parents went to Michigan State, so there's a lot of Spartan blood and Big Ten blood in me, and then...
So did you choose the wrong school for coaching?
No. Illinois spoiled us through the years with all the support they gave us, but... So it was kind of interesting, just how pieces fit together. So my last year at Michigan State was 1993. My predecessor here at Illinois was Craig Tiley. 1993 was his first year here, and so that was the first time I ever met Craig. Was here on the outdoor courts here, and you just saw this little bit of energy, going on with this Illinois program. It was only year one, and so that's how I met Craig, and then. From that time period, I spent the next, coming out of college, I taught tennis in Aspen for a summer, met Martina Navratilova, started to travel with her a little bit at the end of her career, And so that led into a number of opportunities where I was traveling around the world with different professional players. So I did that for about 5 years.
Wow.
And in the meantime, I would sort of come back, help Michigan State when I could, just as a volunteer. And then I actually made a couple of different trips to Champaign to see Craig. So Craig was a mentor of mine that I had a lot of respect for. I was coaching some South African players. He was a Davis Cup coach at the time. And so we just kind of Craig and I were just always bumping into each other and collaborating a lot on different things. And so from that time, I kind of was working through all those time periods, spent a little bit of time at some academies and so forth. And then finally, in 1999, I was incredibly fortunate. I never coached officially outside of my time at Michigan State, officially in college. And the University of Arizona hired me to be the head women's coach there. And so I had some impeccable references on my resume, which I was really fortunate to have. And so I went from not really having coaching experience to coaching Arizona. It was phenomenal. Rocky LaRose, Jim Livengood, they were the head people there, and they gave me that chance. And I'm sort of forever grateful and indebted to them for that opportunity. Tucson's an amazing place. It was an incredible school. Loved that. Kind of got to the point where I felt like it was going to be a time for me to transition into men's coaching.
Okay.
And so had an opportunity to go. One of my good friends was coaching the women's team at Fresno State, and I think that was a little bit of an in for me to go to the men's side. So, took a from a Pac-10 school to a WAC school. Maybe not the right career move, but went to be the men's coach there. Was there for 3 years. And then Craig's assistant left to take a job, so he had an opening. And so I was recruiting for Fresno State in Kalamazoo. Craig and I were there having lunch, and really we're just talking. And all of a sudden it kind of was like, hey, maybe come over here. And probably from a foresight, I don't know, probably the only smart thing I've ever done in my life in terms of things. I was feeling a little bit of this shift of conference. Big conference, small conference, and what's going to happen with that and how it's going to play out. So I just was feeling that at Fresno State at the time that maybe you want to be in with the larger conferences and stuff. And so I made that move. So head coach from a Pac-10 school to a WAC school, and then head coach, down to an assistant coach here at Illinois. But I just felt like it was the right thing to do. I can't say why. There was no science behind it. It just felt like the right thing to do. And then 9 months later, Craig up and leaves for Tennis Australia, and then Ron Gunther hired me here as athletic director, and so now I'm in my 18th year here at Illinois. So that's a long-winded version of my tennis background.
No, that's perfect, because it kind of breaks down where you came from and how you got to this point in your career and your life, essentially. Because how do you replace someone like Craig, who won a national championship here, won indoors, I believe, twice, correct?
Yep.
How do you replace someone with that big of a pedigree and then still be able to continue the success that they left?
Yeah, there's a ton of pressure, and everybody can say, that's not, but you feel that pressure.
Yeah.
That pressure is from community, it's from alumni, it's from everything. There's just a huge expectation here at Illinois Tennis. And so, I think fortunately, in my third year here, we got to the national championship match, and I think that was sort of, a little bit of like, okay, we're doing some things here. And then we're able to have different levels of success throughout the years and winning Big Ten titles and so forth. So our alumni base has been incredible. They've been really supportive. I think we all of us, including me, have this reverence for what Craig was able actually to build and achieve here. So it's sort of you pay a ton of respect to everything that he built, and then you're always fighting your fight, if you will. And we're doing the best we can all the time, and trying to make everybody proud of what we're doing here at Illinois.
So what's one thing you took away from Craig in terms of your relationship that you brought here or kind of made your own when it comes to coaching?
Yeah, I stole so many things from Craig. So, it's hard, it really is hard to say one thing. Craig was an incredible mentor in terms of recruiting and just organization from recruiting and how we go about that. I think, community relations, is a big part of Craig. And then just coaching-wise, Craig's a genius in terms of how he leads men and so forth. And he's incredibly meticulous in terms of the details that he comes about. So I think we've tried to be ourselves, but also inherit, and steal a lot of that, a lot of that guidance that we had from him.
And for you personally, now kind of moving into your coaching style, and you've talked about it a little bit before, how do you coach each kid compared to the team? Because I knew you were touching on that a little bit before, but how would you describe coaching one individual to then coaching the team as a whole?
It's my biggest challenge. So again, if you said to me, what do you do well in coaching? I feel like I can coach one player really well. I can get into the nuances of their game, really accentuate their strengths, hide their weaknesses, and so forth. And that's kind of what I'm really good at. I think when you do that in a team setting, and again, there's just so many different aspects and factors that go into that now. Like, where do they play in the lineup? Because again, like in a perfect world, you could have almost all your guys playing 1 and 2 singles. There's a different mentality at the top of the lineup than there is in the middle and the back part of the lineup. So again, in a perfect world, I'm coaching this guy, I want to put him at 2 or 1, whatever else. And so you can't do that. And so those are just some of the details that get tricky. But I find that to be one of the biggest challenges.
What do you find challenging, when recruiting kids? Because a lot of the kids now, and I talked to Dominic at Old Dominion, and I've talked to Jimmy at Middle Tennessee State. When you recruit international kids, what's the challenge of finding those or recruiting the best American kids to come here? Because I feel like now in tennis, I get the question a lot from people that follow the channel. Do you think recruiting outside the U.S. is hurting college tennis?
So first things first, which is a little bit interesting, we don't recruit internationally. So we don't pursue anybody internationally.
Really?
Everyone that's on our team or has been on our team has essentially come to us, or when I say that, like, when I say very limited, I mean like Alex Vukic is a 3-time All-American for, so I watched him play Jared Hiltzik in a tournament.
Okay. Jared
beat him pretty badly, but I kind of liked what I saw. I literally walked up to him and said, here's my business card, if you're ever interested, let me know. And
just call me.
Yeah, and it was 3 months later, and he called me up, and so we brought him in for a visit, and he's about to be the next top 100 player that we have in our system, and so that's a little bit of our international recruiting. We're not against internationals or anything else, but we just, in terms of our efforts and our energies, we put those in the domestic, and really we concentrate a lot on Midwest and Missouri Valley as well.
Okay.
And so those are our primary, what we feel like, recruiting grounds, and we want to get the best players out of those areas every year. We feel like if we do that, the value, there's a little bit of, they understand a Big Ten championship means something. It has a lot of value to it in terms of like representing the conference and the institution and so forth. So that's important to us, that people understand our culture.
And you've recruited, quote unquote, recruited a lot of big names. Vukic going to be in the top 10, Grand Slam finalist, Kevin Anderson. Can we talk about Kevin for a second? Because your relationship, it seems like, I've talked to former players of yours, at least on social media, that said you've made a big impact on his life. And talk us through your relationship with Kevin and kind of how you saw him grow as an All-American, 3-time All-American, correct?
Yep.
Talk us through that.
Yeah, so Kevin came here, and to be honest, I'll put a ton of credit on some of the other people that were around Kevin.
Okay.
I think with him, Kent Kinnear, who's now director, head of USDA coaching, was really impactful on Kevin. And I think one of the most impactful things I remember Kent saying to Kevin was you're ready. I think Kevin's just, I got to get better. He's this insatiable drive to improve all the time.
Yeah.
And I just remember that conversation where Kent was just said, hey, I just got off the tour. I just played with these guys. I'm watching you like you're ready to go. And you could just see that was a change in Kevin where he started to really, really believe. And so, I mean, the thing with him, I always laugh when people say, oh, you guys did this for Kevin, or you did that. It's the same with all of our guys who have been successful. It's all of them.
Yeah.
It's all of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're really just there to listen and guide. And there's a couple times to push in a certain direction or something like that. But you're talking about the guys that make it like that. The burn and the drive is so strong, so consistent, that you're just, as a coach, you're kind of almost along for the journey and just helping it. So the fun part for me is the relationship with Kevin, going from coaching to sort of mentoring to now I feel like it's more just a friendship, and so I think when we talk a lot more about what we want to do on vacation or something like that than anything else. So, but his Kevin's incredibly unique in just the professionalism he brought to his career, and still is bringing to his career. And I got to remind him that I think can get frustrated with where he is because it's maybe not where he was 2 years ago or something like that. Yeah. But it's like he's still winning matches against pros. He's still doing great, and so he still goes about it with a super high level of professionalism, which is it's indicative of kind of who he is and what he is.
Absolutely, and it's really interesting to see pros kind of go from that college life to the pro circuit? Because a lot of people go from, and when I first started this, it was a big question that I always ask coaches is, what do you see the biggest differences between going from college to the pro tour, and how do you help them transition? So what would be your response to that of, if you're helping someone like Kevin or Rajiv Ram, who's also a Grand Slam champion, how do you help these guys kind of transition, or how does one help them with the transition?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and we've got some guys that are kind of going through it right now, is you've got to be able to, you come from this environment where there's all this, protection is maybe not the right word, but certainly this whole group of people that are just completely looking out for you, right?
Like a bubble that they're surrounded in.
Yeah, and bubble's not the right word, but again, there's just a tremendous amount of support, right?
Yes.
It's our fans, it's our alumni, it's our boosters, it's the coaches, it's the medical staff, it's the physio. We got all these people that sort of your whole time here, they've been around you and helping you and guiding you and so forth. And then all of a sudden, like, you go out there, and if you want all that stuff, you got to pay for it. Well, no one's making enough money early on to pay for a whole team. Everybody wants a team, but nobody has the money to pay for a team. So it's really, I think, continuing to kind of blend that independence. I'm going out, I'm going to make it on my own, because you need to have that attitude with it, but also continuing to utilize the resources. We've got Zeke Clark is back here right now, and so you've got to I think kind of keep using those resources you had. And so as coaches and even our strength and conditioning coach, they're all really supportive of our alumni coming back here, utilizing Champaign as a place to train and so forth. So Kevin did that, Riley Hart did that. A lot of our pros have used Champaign after they graduate to kind of keep helping that push that thing along.
And do you utilize the Challenger? For a lot of people that may or may not know, you have one of the biggest, I think, challengers in the U.S. when you have it at this Atkins Center. How do you use that kind of as a tool for your players to kind of look at, or is there any way that you use the tournament to kind of grow your program a little bit more each time you use it?
Absolutely. So we're up, we host four pro tournaments now, and we're looking to add to that. So we've got different 15s, 25s, and then the Challenger that we host in the fall. So each one of those has their purpose in terms of where we put them in the schedule and so forth. But that's, again, having pro tournaments on our campus is a big part of that. And so the Challenger, the nice thing about that is it's an opportunity for our guys to look at and say, okay, this guy just played in the slams, he's playing here, I'm looking at it, I can see it, and again, it makes it tangible. And so we've had some guys, Alex Brown, who's a super senior on our team, went to the semifinals of Challenger a couple years ago. So when you have that level of success, it needs to say it breeds a certain confidence that I'm ready to go to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. And it boosts a lot of morale for your guys as well, not just for you, but for the whole team. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about with you is when I reached out to some of your players, I reached out to Ruben and Ryler, and I asked them for a story about you. And Ruben gave me a really funny one of how you scared someone in their car. Do you remember this story? Can you tell us about that time?
It was Spitz, and he got me first. So he got me first.
Okay.
But none of this was here at the time.
Okay.
So this was all fields and stuff like that. And so
okay.
He had a Jeep, and I don't even know how I got his keys, but I got his keys and drove his Jeep back behind the facility. And meantime, unbeknownst to me, he'd been watching me do the whole thing. So he was hiding in my car and watching me move his car back out behind the fields and everything else. So it was, I don't know, that's kind of it was a long time ago. But Spitz got me good on that one.
That's so funny because when he told me that, I'm like, why would someone do that? Like, why would you sit in someone's car? How long were you waiting there for?
I don't even know, but I mean, we need to get back to that. We had some great pranks back in the day, and
that was so funny.
Yeah.
Even Ryler, I sent him a message last night, and he told me about a prank that he had on you because you apparently don't like when, and I think every coach can contest to this, is coaches don't like when they throw the rackets. But Ryler cracked his racket the day before practice. And I'll let you continue the story after that.
It was great. So, it was Craig and I are here together, and Ryler, at the time was one of the most best behaved guys possible.
Yeah.
Like just no issues ever, whatever else. And so he's out there, and I started with just a little racket toss.
Yeah.
And then, I'm kind of, I didn't say anything because, like, it's so un-Ryler-like.
Yeah.
Right? Well, just
He never does it.
Every couple minutes, he starts pushing the boundaries a little bit more, and so finally, I just went on like, "What are you?" I'm just going nuts on him, and he just the whole time, because Craig's in on it. Because Craig is a great practical joker, and so Ryler and Craig, they're a big laugh watching me go lunatic on Ryler for him losing the stuff out there. So
especially since he cracked it when it was already broken, which is really funny. I like how everyone else knew too, except for you.
Oh, always the case.
That's so funny. Last question for you, and thank you so much for doing this again. What's your advice for junior players and junior coaches trying to get into college?
It's a great question. I think for me, it's gotten a little bit. I think really try to find a school and a coach that's the right fit for you. Your teammates are going to change, and also unless but so much of the recruiting's early now that you don't even know what's going to happen with your team and so forth. But the school and the coach, and try to be in a situation where that coach wants you there, and if you feel that sensation of that coach wanting you there, that's a good fit for you. And I think a lot of players are going to places where it's maybe just the coach will take them on the team, but the coach isn't really wanting them there. And I think you want to go to a place where the coach is saying, we want you as part of this program. We see you as a big contributor down the road here. And so that's a big part of it, I think.
Creating that chemistry. Right?
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Brad, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Philip, my pleasure, and appreciate you making the time to get to Champaign, Illinois.
No worries. Thank you.